Hello, grade 7. How are we doing today? You're doing fine? All right. Awesome. How was the weekend? It was good. Had fun. Did you read anything? No? All right. Now, I want for us. Who can remind me what we looked at last class? You don't remember? Go ahead, Tiashi. Tiashi, go ahead. I'm listening. You're thinking about it? So we don't remember what we looked at yesterday, last class? Go ahead, Mikali. Mikali, go ahead. Right, so we looked at the suffix ful, right? Full. So ful and not full, right? And what were some of the examples that we looked at? Can you remind me of some of the examples? So hopeful, beautiful, grateful. Anything else that you can remember? Handful, spoonful. All right, awesome. At least some of us remember. Awesome job. Now, today we are going to continue on the spelling rules. All right, so let me just share my screen with you. We are going to pay attention to our specific objectives. All right, my screen is sharing. Just a moment. Now, for this lesson, we are going to define word recognition. We're going to correct the misspelled words by word sticks by reading it, encircle the misspelled words and write the correct ones. And we're going to understand the rule adding suffixes to the words that end in Y. So those are our specific objectives, and we'll be paying attention to that. So for sure, today we are paying attention to the rule that adds suffix to the word that end in Y. All right, so bear that in mind. Let me get my chart up. All right, so I'm going to draw my KWL chart. Any questions thus far? Any concerns? No questions, no concerns? Go ahead, I'm listening. All right, not a problem, but I'm going to show you the chart in a few, all right? Now, with the KWL chart that I'm about to draw, what I want for you to do, you're going to tell me what you know about adding suffixes to words that end in Y. So again, you're going to tell me about words that end in Y. So in particular, adding suffixes to these words. Where is my chart? All right, so the K, we have W and L. All right, so what do you know? All right, so you're saying when you change Y, you change the Y to an I. All right, let me write that. So change the Y. So change Y to I. Okay, anything else? Do we know anything else? It changes the meaning. What changes the meaning? Okay, so when you change the Y to an I and you add the suffix and it changes, okay. All right, so it changes the meaning. ES, the meaning. That's MEANING, meaning. Do we know anything else? No, yes? So it does not always changes to the past form. All right, so it would you like to share an example with this? All right, no examples. It does not always. What do I miss? Oh, it changes. I think I miss out changes. CHANGES changes to the past form. All right, so what do we want to know? What do we want to know? How to form? Say it again. How to remember the rule? Okay, so how to remember this rule? How to remember and what again? And when to use the rule? Okay, so when to use this rule? This rule. RULE. Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to allow you to watch a video. So what I want for you to do, you're going to watch this video carefully, and I want for you to pay attention to the rule, right? So what does the rule say about the Y? So as you watch the video, pay attention to that. What the video actually says about the rule in relations to Y. All right, so I'm going to share the video with you. Here goes.
Spelling rule. Adding suffixes to words ending in Y. A suffix is a group of letters, or a single letter, added to the end of a word. The suffix changes the word's function or meaning. Common suffixes include s, ed, ing, er, est, and ful, but there are many more. Generally, a suffix is added and the base word remains unchanged. For example, dog, dogs; talk, talked; wash, washing. But sometimes we do need to change the base word. If a word ends in Y, it often needs to be changed before adding a suffix. The good news is there is a rule we can follow that holds true in most situations. When the base word ends with a Y, we must change it to an I before adding the suffix. For example, study, studied, happy, happier, crazy, craziest. There are two exceptions to this. First, if the base word contains a vowel directly before the final Y, the Y stays as it is. For example, play, plays, stay, stayed, enjoy, enjoyable. The Y in each of these words stays as it is because of the vowel that comes before it. The second exception is if the suffix begins with an I, then the Y stays as it is. For example, the Y is changed to an I in carried and carries, but not in carrying. The Y is changed in hurried and hurries, but not in hurrying. It's changed in baby and babies, but not in babyish. There are some words that break the rule and the exceptions. For example, we don't change the Y in dry or shy when writing dryness or shyness, or dryly or shyly. Have a go at adding the following suffixes to each of the words, making sure to change the Y to an I. Pause the video here until you're finished.
So this is the part of the video that I like. So I want for you to attempt this. I'm giving you about 3 minutes to attempt this. And remember that you are paying attention to what? The rules, what it says about the Y, right? I'm giving you about 2 more minutes to attempt it. All right. Need some more time? No? Yes? All right, let me continue with the video.
Try again with this set of words. Be careful, not all of these words need the Y changed. Pause the video here.
All right, so I'm going to continue the video, right? All right, 30 seconds. I'm giving you 30 seconds. All right, let's go again.
Time to check your answers. How did you go?
How many did you get correct? All of them? Most? All right. And even so, when you were watching it, well, you're still watching the video, but at the moment, are you yet familiar with the rules as to what it says about the Y? All right, okay.
Remember, if a word ends with a Y, change it to an I before adding the suffix, unless the base word contains a vowel directly before the Y, or the suffix begins with an I.
That was a mouthful, right?
Teaching dot.
That was a mouthful for us. So what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to allow you to rewatch the video. Yes, I'm going to allow you to rewatch the video, and remember that your focus should be placed on what the rule says about the why, and also the little mini activity there, just to see if you really understand. So for those of us who never got the chance to wrap it up, to finish up, you'll be able to view it again. All right, so please be quiet and pay attention. Let's go again. Let me start the video again.
Spelling rule. Adding suffixes to words ending in Y. A suffix is a group of letters, or a single letter, added to the end of a word. The suffix changes the word's function or meaning. Common suffixes include s, ed, ing, er, est, and ful, but there are many more. Generally, a suffix is added and the base word remains unchanged. For example, dog, dogs; talk, talked; wash, washing. But sometimes we do need to change the base word. If a word ends in Y, it often needs to be changed before adding a suffix. The good news is there is a rule we can follow that holds true in most situations. When the base word ends with a Y, we must change it to an I before adding the suffix. For example, study, studied; happy, happier; crazy, craziest. There are two exceptions to this. First, if the base word contains a vowel directly before the final Y, the Y stays as it is. For example, play, plays; stay, stayed; enjoy, enjoyable. The Y in each of these words stays as it is because of the vowel that comes before it. The second exception is if the suffix begins with an I, then the Y stays as it is. For example, the Y is changed to an I in carried and carries, but not in carrying. The Y is changed in hurried and hurries, but not in hurrying. It's changed in babied and babies, but not in babyish. There are some words that break the rule and the exceptions. For example, we don't change the Y in dry or shy when writing dryness or shyness, or dryly or shyly. Have a go at adding the following suffixes to each of the words, making sure to change the Y to an I. Pause the video here until you're finished. Try again with this set of words. Be careful, not all of these words need the Y changed. Pause the video here.
All right, so I'm pausing it for 30 seconds. So double check on what you had. All right.
Time to check your answers. How did you go? Remember, if a word ends with a Y, change it to an I before adding the suffix, unless the base word contains a vowel directly before the Y, or the suffix begins with an I. Easy teaching.
So that was it. That was it. I trust that you have learned something from that, right? Any questions before we move on? Any concerns? Any questions? Any concerns? Are we clear? We're clear? All right, awesome. So what I want for you to remember, yes, is that we add an I to what? We change the what? The Y to an I, and then we add the suffix, right? But there are exceptions. So when you add a suffix that starts with E, let's say ED or ER or EST to a word that ends in Y, the Y usually changes to an I. For example, cry, CRY. So what? We change the Y to an I, and then we add what? The suffix. So let's see, cried, which would be CRIED. Yes? So we change it to an, let me share this with you so you're able to see what I'm saying. Let me share my screen with you. So let us look at cry. As I was saying, CRY. So what we do, we change the Y to an I, then we add the beautiful, we add the suffix at the end. So if we want to add ED or ER, so it now becomes cried, CRIED. Yes, or if we want to change it to cur. Awesome. And there are different examples that we're able to think of, yes? Any questions, any concerns? No? Awesome. And dried, baby, babies. So there you change the Y and you add an I, right? So you change the Y, you add an I, and then you add the suffix at the end. So let us put these in context. Now a sentence could read, this is the dustiest old house I've ever seen. This is the dustiest old house I've ever seen. So there we change dusty to dustiest. I think I stopped sharing my screen. Right, but this is a sentence here. This is an example, right? Using dusty. Another example is the best bakers make the flakiest pie crust. You realize here, they change the Y to an I and then they add the suffix. And remember that the suffix is added to what? The ending of a base word. Awesome. Another example here, the soup needs the tiniest pinch of salt and then it's perfect. Seawater dries out your skin. Now, as it says early on that the Y doesn't change for the suffix ending in ing. So once you have ing, then you don't change the Y. For example, the baby has been crying for almost an hour. So you realize here with crying, so once the suffix as ing there, you don't change the Y. Any questions? All right. So the minute we brought in a new puppy, our mother began laying down sheets of newspaper. Another example, we should spend some time tidying before the guests arrive. So here, once you remember these rules, then you should be able to know when to apply them, right? So again, the Y doesn't change for the suffix ending in ing. Any questions, any concerns? No, yes? All right, so are you able to do an activity for me? Are you able to do an activity for me now? Since there are no questions, no concerns? Awesome. So I'm going to give you some words, and what you're going to do, you're going to add an appropriate suffix to the words that end in Y. Now, with the new words which you have formed, you're going to make simple, meaningful sentences. Let me just add this in the chat. So I'm going to add it in the chat so you're able to have access to the material. All right, so let me just go ahead, paste it in the chat. So you're going to add an appropriate suffix, and let me show you an example as to what I mean. Let's see, I have the word community. Let's say community. COMMUNITY. So to change this, then it would now be communities. TIES. Communities. Now I've created this new word, so I'm going to use it to make a simple, meaningful sentence. My sentence could read, the urban and rural communities are in the proportion of 4 to 6. So again, the urban and the rural communities are in the proportion of 4 to 6. Do you understand the activity there? Awesome. All right, so just before you work on that activity for me, let us just finish up our KWL chart. What have you learned? What have you learned? All right, the first thing, the Y does not change. Let me just get a different highlighter. All right, so the Y, you're saying the Y does not change. DOES. All right, so it does not change. For the suffix, for the suffix, ING. Give me an example. Share an example with me. All right, crying. Awesome. Anything else? Anything else? All right, so suffix that starts with an E, such as ED, to a word that ends in Y, you change the Y to an I. Awesome. Awesome. So suffix, say it again for me. Right, so suffix that ends, that starts with E, such as ED, to a word that ends in Y, we change the Y to an I. Awesome job. Awesome. Anything else? The rule is pretty simple. Okay. All right. So what I want for you to do, you're going to work on that activity for me. And as well, I'm going to provide you with your assignment. And I want for you to bear in mind that this assignment, it will be graded. So ensure that you complete the task. All right. So I'm also going to paste it here in the chat. So you're going to research 6 words that end in Y and add suffixes to change the meaning of the word. Now you're going to use each new word in sentences. Are we clear? Any questions? Any concerns? No? Yes? All right. Well, since you have no queries, since you're clear, I will see. Bye for now.